All right. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Royal News Network Saturday morning live stream. I hope you all are doing fantastic today. I don't know if I'm excited, but I guess we'll talk more about Harry's book and all his crazy latest interviews. It's been a really interesting and wild ride, I would say. The lack of self-awareness, I feel like, is absolutely staggeringly bad. And so we're going to talk a bit about that today. I actually have a whole video I filmed yesterday, which ended up being at least over an hour and a half in terms of actual film time, about this latest interview he gave to somebody associated with the Telegraph. And she put the transcript of the interview on Substack. And that ended up being probably the most revealing out of the whole thing. And obviously we had this great statement where, Harry's trying to save the monarchy from itself because he's the savior, and how he is here to help the Wales' children because one of them will be the spare and they'll struggle like he did. And I was like, well, I don't think so, because I think they've grown up in a loving, stable family. And even though Charles, I think, was a lovely, lovely man, your childhood was very different than theirs is. So let's be honest here. But again, self-awareness, self-actualization is very, very tough for Harry. In addition to cause and effect, is a complete and utter mystery to him. And just to say good morning as well, here's Miss Pippa. She's doing good. She should get her cast off on Monday. She broke her elbow like 6 weeks ago now, and she's had this little cast on for a while, and I am ready for her to get it off, and I know she is beyond ready to get it off. And I'm just done with the cast because her poor thing. It's a split. It doesn't have the splint in it now, so she can move it a little bit better, but she's been dealing with this for a long time. So I'm ready for her to start getting some better movement back and stuff and everything. So guys, welcome. Hello, Michelle and Monique and Crunchy Dragon. Hello. And then Michelle, you asked, does anybody think that Meghan's book is going to address the bullying claim? And I feel like the other claims a couple were expected to address in Harry's book. So yes, there's been a lot of talk that Meghan will be writing a book, and I think that's entirely true. Again, the only thing they have to play, the only thing they have to sell is their connection to the monarchy. And I think that's been made abundantly clear anymore, is that that's their only thing they have is the monarchy. So Harry also, in that interview I mentioned in the Telegraph, threatened to release that he had 800 pages originally and they had to trim it down. And so he has more dirt I'm sure he'd love to share. And I think he will probably at some point, because again, that's the only thing they have to sell. It's the only thing they have to sell as far as we're aware. So I think Meghan's book could go over that. Obviously, I mean, it's been kind of dumb because I feel like Harry has confirmed that Meghan was a bit of a terrible boss. Let me just make sure you need to get over there. Okay. Because he mentioned that, other royals, they yelled at staff members. It's like, so you're saying your wife yelled at staff members? That's kind of what you're telling us. So I just think that Harry, again, and Meghan, the more they talk, the more they put their foots in their mouths, and the more inconsistent they are in their own stories, which is just utterly crazy when you think about it. So I feel like Meghan's book will be more of that, of course. And okay, just going on still as well. Thank you so much, Michelle. Oh, and I usually put the comment up, and I forgot to do that. All right, and Cindy Lou, Jane, good morning. Goalless from Canada, Aisha from Puerto Rico, Guta from New York City, and and then Tea Time with Mina from Wallingford. Hello, and Kath from Cornwall. It's always just so fun to see where everybody's from. I always think that's so fun. Crunchy Dragon says, I hope Meghan's book just dies. They were paid for 4 books, though. She probably is going to talk about her mom being a drug dealer, going to prison. I mean, again, I can't confirm or deny any of those stories about Meghan Markle's mom, but I will say that her childhood, to me, I think is super inconsistent. And so I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's a book in the offing for her. I feel like that's something she'll really want and need, because again, they have to tell their story again and again and again because people don't believe them. So they feel like if they repeat it ad nauseum, we'll finally get over our trepidation or our questions and just embrace them. I feel like that's Harry and Meghan's to me. They're just so desperate for us to believe the narrative. But the problem is that even his own memoir, there's been drastic, major inconsistencies in it that the press has already figured out. And so it's like, well, we can't trust your recollections. It boggles my mind that Harry says he got an Xbox from his mom when he got a PlayStation. That was the last gift his mother gave him. You would think he would remember that. You would think he would remember. I even knew what it was. Because I had heard that before, that she had bought him a PlayStation before she died, and that was the gift he got on his birthday from her after her death. And so I'm like, how do you not know that? Because I know it. You should know it. And so again, it's just that, I mean, obviously he's complained about, that his, I think maybe the drugs really did mess with his brain. So I don't know. Okay. And so America Mama Bear, thank you so much for the tip. Great seeing you, bright, cheery face in the morning. I'm so glad. Thank you. All right. And then another real quick here. Sue M. Thank you so much for this tip, Sue. Do you believe Omid Scobie's claim they will retreat from the public eye for the rest of the year? No, because the business model they have now requires them to do a lot of publicity. And Meghan can't stop publicizing. I mean, I found it so dumb that Harry, in his interview with The Telegraph, he was like, well, we fled to Canada. We just thought it would all go away. And we weren't courting anything. And I'm like, yes, you were. You guys did that whole delivering food thing. And somehow we got you on camera. Now, again, it could be twofold. Could be somebody recognized them and called the Paps. Or it could be that Harry and Meghan, or most likely Meghan, called the Paps to show them doing a good deed. Because they seem to constantly need this validation that they're doing something good. So even if Meghan gives, from her $15 million mansion, gives people in Washington, D.C. a basket of bagels and coffee that probably costs $100, she needs to have them publicize it for her. Now, granted, that could still be what they want to do. But to me, it always feels like that's part of the requirement, is that you have to tell the world how fantastic Harry and Meghan are if they even do the slightest little thing for you. And we still don't know what happened to all the stuff they got in Uvalde, which was still just disgusting, that she went there to deliver cheap snacks and for a publicity stunt, essentially. So it'll be just, again, so annoyed with them. But anyways, so it'll be interesting to see. And then Leslie asks, where's Harry's loving and supportive M through all this? Well, maybe she recognizes that she also looks like an idiot in the book. She looks like an uncultured buffoon a bit, I think. Especially that I still can't get over the lip gloss thing. I just can't imagine a grown adult woman asking another pregnant woman, hey, can I borrow your lip gloss? Actually, I have a little sketch thing. I was thinking about doing that. I thought might be fun for a short or something on YouTube. So we'll have to see if I can get that together. But if Meghan had half a brain, she would stay away from the Harry mess, because they both look bad. They both basically confirm what we already knew about them. And so it's just one of those things where I'm like, wow, you guys aren't that bright. And I know we've been told all the time, well, Meghan's so smart. I have yet to see any real evidence that Meghan is all that bright, really. And apparently this is all part of some long-term strategy. But I'm like, but to what end? This ain't working. This isn't working for you. This should be obvious it's not working for you. But anyways, who knows what's happening in their world. Sarah, hello, good morning. You say it's 42 in Florida. Yeah, it's cold where I am too right now. Colder than it usually is. So I'm like, oh. So if you guys have questions or anything, feel free to put them in all caps. That helps me find them as I scroll through, or, any comments you want to discuss. Okay. So Monique Ann says, did y'all hear how William's friends are ready to drop bombs about Harry? I would not be surprised. Not only Harry's friends or William's friends, but Harry's friends are also ready to go, that's not what happened. So what I found really interesting when you think about it is that Harry's like, well, in the interview, it's hysterical. He goes, Meghan has no skeletons in her closet. I'm like, dude, of course she does. Everybody does. And she was in Hollywood. She has skeletons in her closet. I have no doubt. Again, I am not the one. I do think that the picture that some people cite as Meghan's first wedding, I think that was a prom picture because she was, or homecoming queen or something. I don't know. But it's the idea that she has no skeletons, that she was this blank slate, pristine, perfect person before entering in the royal family. Give me an ever-loving break. That's totally false. And where was I going with that? Oh, and he says, well, the press has dirt on the royal family. Well, I'm sure they do. And most of it is on you. Like, the lack of self-awareness of Harry is, I think, incredible. And every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, how dumb are you? I really ask that. And I don't mean to be mean, but I'm just like, seriously. All right, tea time with Manna. Thank you so much for the tip. Harry needs to stop talking about his brother's children. Can they sue? So I do not know. I don't think they would sue. I just don't think that would. Again, they're smart enough to know that that doesn't really get them anywhere, I think, at the end of the day. But I do think that William is like, he's talking about our kids, and he's talking to, and I filmed my whole video yesterday, which again is super long. So I at least did most of the prep for it in terms of all my slides and stuff, but it'll still take me a while to get edited. That Harry just, I feel like he's a member of a cult of some kind, and he's just telling everyone, "Hey, look." He's like, I need to convert you, and I can help your children. Don't you see? Don't you see how great my revelation is? Because he's had this whole woke revolution in his mind, and so that's what he is focusing on. So he's just, I feel like, so utterly out of his mind at this point. But again, I don't feel like it behooves the royal family to sue. What I do think they need to do is, if the government comes to the forefront with a bill on the titles, I think the royal family needs to quietly say, yes, we approve this. Yes, because at this point, Harry, too, still thinks he's a member. He still thinks he represents the royals. He said that in the interview. I can't remember the exact wording he used, but he's like, as a member of the British royal family. It's like, but you're not really a member anymore. You're self-exiled, basically. But from a branding standpoint, every time Harry says those sorts of things, he's dragging the monarchy into the dirt with him. And they need to sever that. At this point, Harry's not going to do it. And I feel like Harry's still, I only ever gave their marriage 5 years. I think it'll go longer than that, because I really feel like, based on what Harry says a lot, he's really in a cult mentality. And those things take a while to break sometimes. So it may take him a lot longer than I thought. It might have been better if he was still in the UK, but he's still definitely in the cult of Meg right now. So I think the royal family needs to just cut their losses. I understand that he always has a place back, but they need to cut their losses with him and move on and just really, really sever things. You just have to sever it. Because at this point, Harry is just not going to let things go. And he has threatened to release more. And granted, if they get rid of those titles, yeah, maybe they'll still do that. But they also look like they look incredibly weak now, because they have none of that Duke of Sussex, Duchess of Sussex thing to rely on anymore. They are officially severed members of the royal family. Harry and his children perhaps are not in the line of succession anymore, which I feel like they should do, because Harry just does not sound like a sound guy. He does not sound like somebody who would be a good leader, in a good position for the monarchy at all. And he is fairly high up in the line of succession if anything happened to the Waleses. So I think at this point they need to say, okay, we're going to cut our losses. If anything happens, heaven forbid, to Catherine and William, we have Beatrice in the wings. We'll go with her. We'd rather go with her over Harry and Meghan and their circus stage left. So that would be my suggestion. Renee J, I like this. Shoot, we all know she's so full of it. She is so full of it. It's really an incredible thing. Annie says, I don't know that's been asked before, but I've been wondering, if Harry and Meghan had a third child, would that child automatically be a prince or princess since it's the grandchild of the current monarch? I think that could technically be true, because the stipulation, my understanding is, from a legal perspective, is because Harry and Meghan's children were born before Charles became king, they were not automatically given those titles. Those are titles or something now bequeathed to them based on what the monarch feels. So at this point, I don't think they'll get those titles at all. And when it comes to having a third child, they could definitely try. Meghan's older, so that might be harder. I think she is. I think she hates probably being pregnant to a certain extent, because it takes her a long time to get back to her pre-pregnancy weight. So I don't foresee that for her. And she's obviously older now, so it'll be tougher and everything. And they also got an award for having 3 children, but they also got an award for pushing it back against a racist monarchy institution. And we all know what a crock of bull that is now, because Harry walked that back. And so it's like, well, you really got an award for nothing. We all know that now. So the question is, what do we do? What do we do post that? So yeah, I think I don't think so. But if they really felt like they needed to, they always could. All right, Lizzie B, I'm so sorry, but if you could have just put a disclaimer on the autobiography, I'm putting that book back on my shelf right next to Wonderland. Oh, and thank you so much for the tip. Yes, so yeah, it's a lot of fiction, and honestly, like Penguin Random House, I mean, it's been public knowledge for decades that Harry got a PlayStation. That went through and they put Xbox instead, to me, is mind-boggling. Because I know his job, the ghostwriter's job, is to get Harry's words and put that into a book format. But they need to fact check the guy. He even said he was in the wrong place when he heard the Queen Mother died. So you can't trust this guy's recollection. So you needed to fact check him. You needed to push against him, because this guy is saying he's telling the truth when it's obviously just his truth, and it's wrong in some instances. And again, that puts Harry's story into question and puts his truth, whatever he thinks it is, into question. And actually reflects, I think, pretty poorly on Penguin Random House, if I'm being quite honest. Oh, Jen, thank you so much for this super sticker. You are so kind. All right, Pata Gotia, do you think Harry believes what he says when he, or is he parroting Meghan? I think so. This is interesting because I worked with somebody once, and it was kind of interesting because I caught on after a couple of times that I felt like this person was repeating what other people had told them and acting like they came to that conclusion on their own. And I thought that was just really interesting because I think sometimes Harry probably hears so much of Meghan and he's unconsciously parroting her. I think some of it is conscious, but I think some of it is unconscious too. And he's around her so much, and I think she fills his head with all of this boondoggle woke stuff, because he complains about that nobody likes the word woke anymore. It's like, yeah, because have you watched Hollywood? They've gone woke, they've gone broke. So yeah, woke doesn't work. And so she is fully on that. And I think Harry, again, he's fully enveloped it. He is a true believer of the cult of woke and Meghan. And so I think, again, he's both unconsciously and consciously parroting her. All right, I like this username, the Samurai Hobbit. Thank you so much for the tip. You ask if the Herkles had just shut the F up, known their place, and did as they ask, everybody would still be fine now. But no, they had to go make a spectacles of themselves. They were nothing more than a joke. This is very true. I always felt like, even from the first time Meghan came to the forefront, and as Harry's girlfriend, and I noticed immediately that she was courting the media by posting these pictures for a while on social media, trying to subtly hint and brag that she was with Harry. I was like, oh, she's bad news, because she is going to be the wife. If they marry, she is the wife of the spare, which means she cannot be the center of the show. And she wanted attention. She desperately craved the attention. She was desperate for people to find out she was dating Prince Harry. Absolutely desperate. And so for me, it's just so obvious how dangerous that is in so many ways, if that makes sense. And she just was absolutely obsessed with trying to get the media attention on herself. And she has been for years. For years, she was desperate to get a lot of attention because she thought she wanted to be this really famous person. And she chose acting, but I really don't think she cared about acting. I think she just wanted something that would make her famous, and acting happened to be it and make her a lot of money. So that's where she was. And it's just, again, they just want to make spectacle of themselves. Yes, they're quiet for a period of time, but I feel like we always get stories about them. And it's like, how can that just be the palace leaking? That has to be you leaking, because a lot of them, generally, you try to be positive about yourselves. Like, there were a ton of positive stories about Meghan all the time. So you're telling me that the palace, in addition to just starting the negative stories, actually pushed a bunch of positive stories too? That just doesn't make any sense. So again, Harry's concept of what's really going on here, I feel like is pretty bad. So this is interesting. Heidi, why did the Prince Harry praise the King of the Netherlands and Norway during the interview? Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I'll have to look. So Norway, it could be interesting. I can see where that would be, why he would say that, because in terms of the relationship, so this is Princess Martha Louise. She is marrying a guy who's, I think, basically a charlatan. He's a shaman, and he created some sort of like COVID medallion or something that if you bought it, it would protect you from COVID. Of course, and then he goes and gets COVID. That's called a charlatan. So, but he is Black. And so the King of Norway made a strong statement against racism because, again, they cite all of the contention against him as racism when it's really about not only is he pushing pseudoscience, but she has pushed pseudoscience as well. So she's been in the hot seat too for this. And so in her mind, in her perspective, she's very, very much focused on this aspect of it rather than listening to people say, hey, this guy seems to be somewhat of a crook. And that is what the concern is. And again, it's very much the Meghan mentality. Well, if you don't like me, then you're racist, rather than, well, I'm saying that you're selling something that tells people they'll be protected from COVID, and then you go get COVID. Doesn't that seem like a bit ironic? So you're trying to make money off people in desperate situations, and yet it doesn't work. So that is where that comes from. But I now, as I was talking, I remember what the King of the Netherlands did. So King Willem-Alexander opened, I don't know if it was an investigation or a report or research or something, into the impact of slavery, I believe it is, in their colonies and stuff. And he may have issued an apology. Now I can't quite remember. And so I have a hard time with this because I know some countries, some people are demanding reparations. I'm against reparations for something that happened hundreds of years ago that did not personally happen to you. And so that is my perspective on it, because I feel like, again, you're shaming people that had nothing to do with what happened. And, for example, us in the United States, you have some families who are maybe white, but who arrived here in the 1900s. So were they responsible for slavery? No, but they may be required to pay reparations if the United States went down that route. And in my family, as far as I'm aware, when I researched my family tree, and this is just on my dad's side, there was absolutely no, as far as I'm aware, I don't think there were any slaves owned by my family. And my family fought on the northern side of the Civil War. And so I'm like, well, why am I paying for this if I can't find any association that my family had anything to do with the vast majority of it? And so I feel like you're end up punishing people who really just, requiring them to pay something that they didn't have any part in. And it's, again, this whole thing, this woke thing that we also saw on Catherine and William's tour, is to try to punish people who just really, that wasn't their experience. That wasn't what they had any part in during that time. And so I understand that it's always good, I feel like, to understand the past, but I feel like using the past to punish people who are in the present, I feel like it takes things a bit too far. So I feel like that is where that's at. But I mean, it's good that they're investigating it. It's good that they're trying to learn a bit more about their past. I always think, again, that's a really, really good thing. But again, I feel like they perhaps go too far sometimes. So Penelope asked, do you think Harry would do an interview with the UK TV show? Maybe, but it would be a highly, highly controlled, because even that interview with the Telegraph, it was highly, highly controlled. And she was like a sycophant of Harry. You could just tell. She was like, well, they said Meg is difficult. I can't see how Meg is difficult. It's like, yeah, she's charming when she wants to be. And then she can also be somebody entirely different when she also wants to be. So people can be two things. I hate this idea that you can only be one thing. You can only be a great, fantastic person. I was like, no. And because some people are, I mean, generally, I would say if you met me, you probably get what you get. Maybe I'm a bit shyer in person because I am a bit more of an introvert for sure, but that's just essentially me. But I feel like Meghan, you could either get the wonderful, charming Meghan, or you could get the rude, difficult, and abrasive Meghan. It just depends on the time of day and what she wants. Okay, oops. There we go. Okay, so Regina asks, Colbert's audience are bull Harry. He did not talk in front of a studio audience. They lied. I could definitely see that because they did film his a day earlier than I believe they intended to. And I think some of that had to do with being aware that he may not get a great reception, and that the book had leaked and there was a lot of controversy and everything about it. So yeah, I could kind of see that. And I do think, though, 100% they boosted, at least that one clip I saw, because sometimes it's just hard to listen to Harry anymore. that the clip towards the end where he's talking about his whole military service, which just drove me nuts because he's like, well, everybody was mad about it. And I was a hero, which Colbert is really the one he's like pulled. Look, they all talked about you being a hero. And Harry's like, yeah. And he's like, but now they're all mad. It's like, yeah, they're mad because they used the number, you ding dong. That was the issue. Not that you talked about in the military service, but that you actually put a number to it and then said, you'll save people from suicide by telling us how many people you killed. That's the question. But at the end of that bit, it really sounded like, to me at least, that the audience the clapping was boosted because it was too dense to me. It was so dense. I'm like, I bet you it just sounded basically like a track essentially that I'm like, I so think they boosted that, but and that's just me. All right. Awesome. Mary, thank you so much for the super sticker. Yeah, Deborah says, I forgot which book it was in, but yes, it was a PlayStation. I believe Diana bought it the day she died. Yes. And in addition, the Xbox wasn't even available at that point. So it wasn't even around. So Claire asked, question, isn't coercive control illegal in both the UK and California? It seems like that's what they're doing here in the RF. So, I mean, it might be, I'm not sure about that, but I mean, Scientology walks all over LA. So I don't think that's really, I don't think that hinders them in any way. JJQ3 asks, when thinking of Meghan's brilliance, it reminds me of an old quote. I'm paraphrasing. Never ascribe to conspiracy or cleverness what can be explained by stupidity or incompetence. Oh, that's a great quote. Thank you so much for the tip as well. But yeah, that's a great quote because I mean, never ascribes conspiracy or cleverness what can be explained with stupidity and incompetence. I feel like that really describes the whole birth thing surrounding Archie, which was utter stupidity on Harry and Meghan's part. The reason and I know people talk about the moon bump and everything. I do think she carried her kids because she gained a lot of weight and she struggled to lose it. That's my baseline. Because I was on the surrogacy train for a bit, but I know the surrogacy laws in the UK are really complicated and they'd probably have to hire somebody from the United States and they'd have to get them over. It would just get way too complicated, in my opinion. But Harry and Meghan played into that because I do think perhaps at some point she did use a little fake bump of some kind to make her look rounder, make her pregnancy look better. And so I could definitely see her doing that at points. And she also had a really short torso. So I think her pregnancy just looked weird on her. But in addition, it's like the whole thing of telling the press she was in labor after she had given birth. And playing all these games with the media regarding his birth. You can't know who his godparents are, et cetera, et cetera. Is it any wonder people don't trust you? Is it any wonder conspiracy theories have arisen because you didn't tell us stupid things that you just should have told us? Who was there at the birth? What happened? I mean, those are just simple things. And I feel like the conspiracy just grew because they were stupid. And incompetent. It's like all you had to do was do what Catherine. Does anybody question whether or not Catherine carried her kids? No. There's never been any question or suggestion of that. And again, not everything can be ascribed to the scenario surrounding the birth, but Harry and Meghan being so cagey about everything, I think in an attempt to make it perhaps more interesting or to generate media interest, that stupidity has resulted in conspiracy theories that continue to this day. And they, again, only have themselves to blame for that. Teresa asked, question, which celebrities are conspicuously quiet? Well, I think a lot of them, especially a lot of people who were used to be really big, let's say George Clooney and Amal Clooney, have they said anything? No. Because I think at this point, everybody kind of knows that, yeah, Harry and Meghan, they're a huge question. Okay, so Crystal, thank you so much for the tip. Okay, so I was just reading this. White Knuckles description comes out. You said later multiple times, when Meg forced herself to go to an event when they were holding hands the night she couldn't be alone. 2, when Meg mom was yelled a derogatory, and Kate. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, especially Meghan's, whole thing of, golly, what is it? Meghan's whole thing about her supposed mental health crisis and that they were forced to go to this, I think it was Cirque du Soleil. event. And I was like, well, if you were really that bad, you could have called into the palace and they would have arranged somebody else. You know, they do that. If you get sick, they do put somebody else in your place. And again, it's just, I thought Meghan looked pleased as punches at that event. All right, Mama Otter, $5. Thank you so much. I always knew Harry had ADHD, but now I believe he could have Asperger's, anxiety, and possibly borderline personality disorder. Yeah, I don't think he comes across as well in anything anymore. And again, I feel like some people who are just generally charmed are like, yeah, but it's like if you look beneath the surface and if you understand the monarchy system, what he's saying doesn't make sense. And simple logic things are just don't even register. So it's just really, really fascinating to see. And yeah, I'm just amazed some people are still interested. American Woman, thank you so much for the tip. I'm getting H&M fatigue. I'm tired of watching them scorched earth while trying to make us believe they aren't going scorched earth. The book shockingly reveals H's insanity. I worry for the kids. I mean, genuinely, I can't, I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, anything like that. But what he says, sometimes I'm like, really? Really? Do you really want to say that? Especially that whole thing about the Elizabeth Arden cream. I'm also on the hunt today for the Elizabeth Arden cream. And I just don't understand that. I don't understand that. Why would you tell us that you put cream on your nether regions and that when you opened it, before you put the cream on your nether regions, you thought of your mother? It's just so weird. It's like, you don't need to tell us that. You could have just told us that you use the cream, not go any further than that. It's like, oh my gosh. So it's Iris Braun asks, is it true that Doria has once been in prison some years ago? I don't think so. I feel like that would have been found out because prison records are public records. So I don't think you could have hid that, something like that. I think Tom Bauer would have found that out. Again, that has to be something that to me that just doesn't make any sense that we wouldn't have found out those details yet. But do I think she was absent from Meghan's childhood? Oh, heck yeah. I don't think she was around much. I think Meghan spent most of the time with her father. And so, yeah, that is my thought there. Okay. Gemma asks, hello from Spain. Do you think H&M will be resented by their own children for revealing such embarrassing details and missing out on their own royal titles? Yes. I think there will be some resentment. I think there'll be a lot of resentment within the Sussex fold. Harry will come to resent Meghan for keeping him away from his grandparents before their deaths and destroying his future with his family. Now, he says it has nothing to do with Meghan, but again, he's in the full throes of the cult right now. So I don't think he realizes what he's totally missed out on yet. But his children, I mean, they could be totally 100% on their parents' side. And of course, they'll love their parents and everything. But I could see some huge resentment building. So Lily and Archie, when they're adults, they're like, so we lost out on a royal title and going to like the coronation and seeing our great grandmother's 70th platinum jubilee. Why? What? I mean, it's just, to me, I would have been like, personally for me, although I'm a history person, so to miss out on history, I feel like would have been terrible, but it's like, it would have been crushing to realize that you basically missed out on everything. And your parents' only explanation is, well, they weren't nice to us. So we just didn't like the media coverage of ourselves, which is still bad. Has moving to Los Angeles changed anything? No, their publicity has gotten worse because all they needed to do as the Spare and the Spare's wife was keep their heads down and work. And yes, sometimes the media coverage may have been negative, but it slowly turned positive because they've gone scorched earth against the monarchy and the media and everything. We can all guarantee now that their coverage will always be perpetually terrible for the rest of their lives. That's what we can guarantee right now, is that they'll never have good press coverage. It'll always be mixed to negative. And Harry and Meghan only have themselves to blame there. So Dizfan asks, hello, Brittany, what's the difference between dignified silence the royals are doing now versus a statement Her Majesty the Queen did after the Oprah interview? I feel like Buckingham Palace was pushed to say something after. Yes, I feel like there was a push for Buckingham Palace to say something, and I kind of wish they hadn't. Even though recollections may vary is a powerful and strong statement, I also feel like it's something that Harry and Meghan have tried to use to their advantage too, because at this point, you just need to ignore them. they need to separate themselves more. I feel like the schism needs to be more permanent and something that Harry can't walk back. Absolutely. But at the same time, I feel like they need to stay on this silence track and ignore Harry and Meghan, because it basically says that if you ignore them, you saying that what they have to say isn't even worthy of a response. You can't even dignify what they say with a response, so you're just going to ignore them. And that's a broader strategy. Just get to work, show the public what you actually believe in, rather than telling them, because telling them just doesn't work. And honestly, I think, again, they overreacted to the Lady Susan Hussey thing. I think they should have been much calmer in their reaction to it. But I think Meghan had made them so sensitive. They had this knee-jerk reaction, which I don't think played very well. And I don't think worked very well for them in the long term. So, and I think, again, that woman, I think she was sort of looking for her 15 minutes of fame as well. So I think the smartest thing for Harry and Meghan, the monarchy to do, is to stay quiet. Just stay quiet, ignore Harry and Meghan to the best of your ability. That'll be the best thing you can do, because other than that, they're just going to continue to do these things, and everything you use will be used against you. So, for example, in their documentary series, Meghan read the whole statement to Tyler Perry. And so, again, that was something they used to go, oh, look, they're just not even taking responsibility for it. How dare they? Again, just doesn't really work. Oh, hi, Mr. K. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Okay. So we got Nicole here. What age did the RF is harassing narcissist, has a criminal mind, and was on Politico, but Amber Heard. That says a lot. Love your unboxing fashion. Oh, thank you. Yeah, some of you may have missed it. I did an unboxing on my fashion channel, because I thought, oh, nobody does this for royal fashion. So I actually got the exact dress. Well, not, again, it's the exact same dress in terms of the style and everything, but it wasn't actually Kate's dress. That was from Self Portrait, because it was on clearance several weeks ago now. I've had that box sitting on my desk for a long time before I opened it. So it's just very, very interesting that, yes. So there was actually an interesting bit too, where Harry is talking, and this again is in the Telegraph interview. And again, perhaps I'm doing too much, but I did like a whole video on this. He's talking about how silence is used by the abuser. And I'm like, Harry, you do realize that in your own flippin' scenario, that the monarchy is being silent and you're now the abuser. Does that not correlate for you? Did that not correlate for you in any aspect of the imagination, that what you've become your own, basically, I don't know what you could say, caricature in a way. You've done this thing where you're actually doing the same thing to the monarchy and royal family that you say that you find abhorrent. So which is it? Harry, which is it? So yeah, it's just amazing. Okay, Deborah, I wonder how Oprah is taking them back with the racism. Yeah, so the racism, Harry walking the racist comment back, still to me is unbelievable. I'm like, he's like, well, that was the British media. I was like, well, it was the American media too. It was the American media too. It was all the media. We're not idiots. We read into it what you said. We inferenced based on what Meghan said that it was a racist comment. And you're telling us now we're all crazy? No, absolutely not. You're the one who's crazy for thinking now, 2 years later, 3 years later, that you can walk it back and nobody will notice, or nobody will call you out on the utter BS and the hypocrisy of it. Because what did they do after the Oprah Winfrey interview? They made sure to immediately go and say, well, it wasn't the Queen and Prince Philip. So couldn't you have also said, well, it wasn't a racist comment, it was just unconscious bias? Yeah, you would think they could have done that. And again, I think it all goes back to this idea that when it comes to the monarchy and everything, that Harry and Meghan are desperate to regain that traction. What's really shocking to me going through these interviews and stuff is that they really want to be king and queen of the Commonwealth, and they still think they have a shot at it. That's what's become abundantly clear to me, is that they really think, really think they can be king and queen of the Commonwealth, and they're desperate to make that happen. And so they're doing everything humanly possible to try and get that traction back that they desperately need, desperately need. And so I don't think it'll go well for them, but they're going to give it the old college try. So it's kind of sad. All right. Renee J. Moonbub was pure vanity to show off the pregnancy like Beyonce. Yeah, she wanted to show off the pregnancy. And perhaps if she used it stuffing, she could have at a point or two. But again, I still think she's too narcissistic to have gained all this weight and not lost it immediately. Like she would have wanted to be like Kate, where she gained the weight from the pregnancy and bounced back like 3 weeks later and almost looked exactly the same. Like at Meghan's wedding, Catherine looked pretty much back to her same like slim self. Her face was still a little puffier. You could obviously tell she was carrying perhaps a little bit more weight around her midsection, but not much. But yeah, she was right back to pre-pregnancy weight, and I'm sure that killed Meghan. I'm so sure that killed Meghan. So yeah, that's why it's not only the weight gain, but that it took her so long. And I think she's too vain not to have tried to lose it right away. And I think that was really tough on her. And again, nothing wrong with that at all. Just trying to be realistic as well. All right, Lizzie B. I know they do it for staff, but do you think that RF will implement an NDA for future family members? I don't know. Married ins, yes. But I don't know too, because again, you have to think Meghan is a psycho. And I think most of the royal family kind of were up on it from the jump. So it would have been nice if they had. But again, they are, and this is why I feel like I'm on the side of the monarchy too, is like they were trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Yes, they had questions. Yes, they had concerns, but they were still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And she stomped all over it. And it's excessively rude to do so when they just tried to give her every shot in the book of making things happen. And yeah, she just seems to come across as a very, very selfish person. So I don't know if they will. I mean, obviously, perhaps the prenups will be arranged differently. I'm sure there's probably is a prenup in place. Again, Meghan did not have that much money coming into this marriage. I think she had blown a lot of her money on PR for herself through Sunshine Sachs. I think that's where a lot of her money went, was going to Sunshine Sachs to try to boost her popularity. But unfortunately, you do actually need talent after a certain point. You can't just be, or just have an incredible figure or something like, what is it, Emily Ratajkowski or something? You know, she's basically known for her body and that's it. But she's managed to make it into a career for herself. So, hey, but Meghan just didn't have those type of opportunities really. Monique Ann says, do you see how Hollywood has been quiet or at least distanced from these two? Yes. And I think, again, you have to know Hollywood is a very insular community in a lot of ways. And so you have to know that Hollywood is well aware of probably the problems within the production studios of Archewell. I'm sure they're well aware of it. I'm sure they're well aware of the struggles that Netflix had. And you got to think too, you know, Hollywood people, they're not the best, but a lot of them, you know, they do have family members. And after a while, it just does put a bad taste in your mouth. You know, even Harry's friends are calling him out for airing his dirty laundry. He's like, well, it's fine. I'm not doing. I mean, he literally tries to call excuses, even when his own friends are like, hey, this is probably not the best idea in the world. So you got to think, even though Hollywood people are, you know, a different breed, I think everybody's kind of on the same page of like, well, you're dealing with family members here. You really need to treat them with more respect. Asma says, didn't Harry violate Catherine's privacy by showing her text? Probably. But again, I don't think the royal family will sue. But again, it just looks crass on Harry and Meghan's part. And I feel like it makes them look bad because Catherine was like, my daughter's dress doesn't fit. And she started to cry. And Meghan's like, well, I told you to take it to the tailor. And Catherine's dress is like, no, it's so atrociously bad. It needs to be completely remade. And Meghan's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Just go to the freaking tailor. And Catherine's like, fine. So I'm like, I just feel a lot more attitude from Meghan's side than I do from Catherine's. And I understand Meghan to play devil's advocate. Meghan was stressed because her father obviously wasn't going to make it to the wedding. And I don't think she ever wanted him to, really. That's just my opinion. But I think that sharing that was, again, reflects badly on Harry and Meghan. I'm just stunned how badly they come across. Again, the whole lip gloss thing. Harry's saying it's an American thing, trying to act like Catherine's cold for not wanting to share with another woman she doesn't know her lip gloss. And I'm like, That's disgusting. She did put it on the back of her hand, I guess, but you don't know where her fingers have been. I mean, it's just like in the back of her hands. I mean, there could be germs there. What does Catherine know? I'm sure she tossed it after it was done. Because again, it was just so rude and entitled to even ask, and so deeply unprofessional. I think you should have had lip gloss that you're stealing your sisters-in-laws. You're not besties. I would never, if I had married Harry, I would have never asked Catherine for that in the slightest. If I didn't have lip gloss and that was my fault, I just take my lumps or just beg one of my staff members, can you please go to the drugstore and get me something cheap? I don't care what it is. Just get me something. Just get me something. Or again, it's just that thing too, where I felt like Meghan was always so sloppy as a royal. Her clothes were sloppy. Her hair was sloppy. And again, to me, not having the lip gloss you need is sloppy. Mr. K asks, having served in the British military longer than he's been alive, a lot of us are really angry with him. Yes, I can totally see that. Thank you so much for your service. And it's just, again, this thing where Harry just does not seem to have any sort of logic brain at all. It's really sad. So thank you so much, Mr. K. All right. And Shannon Allen, did y'all see Meghan's Wikipedia page showed the coronation as event she was going to, but now it's gone. Ooh, it is gone. Oh, yeah, because they put that on IMDb too, apparently, which is an industry service basically in a lot of ways. And again, I don't think anybody would be super excited. Like, would anybody be excited to see them? No. Do they have any role? No. Will they be shoved in the back? Oh, heck to the yes. Heck to the yes, they'll be shoved in the very back. Will they be booed? I think so. I even encourage people to boo because I was going to, because I'm trying to do a more of like just reporting from the event. That's what I did with at the service of Thanksgiving for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Because, well, I was with a bunch of people who liked Harry and Meghan, which was kind of funny. I didn't talk about my dislike for them though, but I also was like, I wanted to make sure I wanted to hear what other people were doing rather than just, what I was doing. Cause I really wanted to report there. And speaking of the coronation and everything, so just a little heads up. So I have my tickets. I have my spot, my hotel. And so I will be at the coronation. And I think I'll do a pre-coronation trip, maybe in March, just to get some B-roll, hopefully for the event, so I can get some really great coverage together. But the other thing is I will start trying to do some more interspersed, because I think everybody's getting a little Harry and Meghan out a bit. So I'll be trying to intersperse more videos about the other royals and everything. So if you guys, I know sometimes those things don't do very well, but they could, that would be awesome. Because what I'm planning to do too is I want to request, because I'll be going for the Commonwealth Day service. My trip will coincide around that. And what I'm planning to do is hopefully ask for press credentials. I know I've talked about that a couple of times, because I actually tried to submit a couple of my pictures to Shutterstock in the editorial section. And some of them just didn't make the cut because they weren't as sharp as probably they should be. But the other thing is that if I don't have press credentials, I can't sell some of the pictures I take from the events. And so I'm like, that's a good thing to know. I did not know that. So I'm going to be working really hard on trying to do that. So at least sometimes too, I can get some of those pictures up to sell on something like Shutterstock, which would be a nice little opportunity as well. So just letting you guys know, you may see more variations of videos and stuff, and that's what I'm planning after all this fervor with Harry and Meghan does die down, which I hope it does, because I would love to get back to doing, I love royals in general, and so I want to do more of those kind of things. All right, Claudina asked, do you think Meghan is just waiting for the inheritance before divorcing? Maybe. I don't know how much she'll get though. And it won't be that much. Like, people think the royal family is rolling in dough. They're not really. A lot of their money is tied up in actual physical assets rather than cold hard cash. And that's the way a lot of these older royal families are. A lot of their assets are not cash. They're possessions and those sorts of things. Oftentimes stuff they can't sell. So for example, the Cullinan diamond, the first star of Africa, the largest diamond in the entire world, largest cut diamond, cannot be sold. It belongs basically to the British government. Or I guess it belongs to what is that talking about? It belongs to the Crown estate or something. So it's not something they can even sell. And they have a lot of Da Vinci drawings they can't sell. So there's just not a lot of assets they can get rid of. So Harry and Meghan, I feel like that they're going to get this windfall of money is not going to happen. Aaron asks, he really is right. I believe it's going to make him stay in this woke bubble longer with her. I just feel sad that they will not know their cousins. And thank you so much for the tip. And yes, I agree. So again, he's in this woke bubble. He's in the cult of Meghan. He worships the ground she walks on. He thinks she is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so I just feel like that's not going to end anytime soon. And so unfortunately, that I feel like that really does mean that the royal family will struggle to get anywhere with Harry. I feel like that'll be the case for most of the next several years. And I don't think it'll be easy for him to wake up. I think the thing, because he rails against the royal family leaking for so long, I think what may really wake him up at some point is if he realizes, or it's like official, that Meghan leaked something. If they can tie Meghan to a leak specifically and publicly announce that, I think that would erode a lot of the trust Harry has in her. But to say, but again, I think the resentment of not seeing his grandmother and grandfather before their deaths, I think that will build too. Do you think the government will deport Harry after what he said about the Taliban? No, it's actually more the drugs that's going to get him in trouble more than anything else. Is admitting cocaine use. That's going to be a big no. All right, BB, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you, Kathy, as well. Or Katie, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Katie, as well. So yeah, just going through here real quick. Amelia asked Brittany, can I ask you a personal question? Do you have a boyfriend? I do not. I don't have the time. I don't have the time. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Mr. K, thank you. I'd invite them to the coronation, but instead of having them attend, strip all titles, that would leave Harry with no country or way of travel and access to money. I mean, he'll still have his mother's money and everything, but I do agree, really severing the ties Harry has to the royal family, I think publicly needs to be done anymore. Annie in Ohio, Brittany, I enjoy your commentary. It's refreshing to hear support for the royal family against this Clammy of Harry. Yes. Clammy? Yeah, my pronunciation of words sometimes is not good. My phonics education was lacking, which is funny because now I write for a living. So that's just kind of funny. Adolphi's Corner. I've enjoyed your knowledgeable, common sense approach to a topic that has become boring and reported without real insight in the media. There are a great many back payments included in this gift. Oh, thank you so much. You were so kind. Yes, I really tried. That was what somewhat of my heart for this channel too, is just giving people this greater insight into the royals. I feel like is not like covered in the mainstream media at all. I feel like so much of the time they're so focused on the glamour and stuff, and they treat them as celebrities, especially here in the States, and they're not celebrities. They're royals. They're taxpayer-funded citizens for life, from birth to death. They are getting taxpayer money in many cases. And so it's like, it's important to examine who they are and what they do and what they represent, which is greater than just, making a buck. And I feel like that's all Meghan wanted to do, is make money. And so I just feel like that's important to highlight. So I'm so glad you appreciate it. I appreciate that, Adolphi. Valerie, thank you so much for the super sticker as well. Mr. K, I'd also remove all those NDAs from royal household staff so they can talk to the press and destroy Meghan for the palace, just for a giggle. I actually would love if they release the staff members from their NDAs. I think that would be fabulous, because I'd love to hear more details, and I'd love to hear from them. They have to be anonymous right now because of the NDAs. And I think it would be helpful to push against Harry and Meghan to remove them from their NDAs and say, hey, they can go ahead and talk. We have no issue with that. I think that's really, really super. It would be a great thing for the palace to do. And I would be super supportive of that. Nancy, thank you so much for the super sticker. And we have the Samurai Hobbit. Yes, my little brother's in the U.S. Air Force. Harry's moronic comment about killing 25 Taliban could likely put him and other troops in danger. Of course it could, but he's too much of a dunderhead to realize that. It's all about him, and that the media always misinterprets him. Well, it's like, well, maybe you're a really crappy communicator, Harry. So it's not always everybody else. Sometimes it's you. All right, Christine, thank you so much for the tip. You are so kind. All right, LC. Oh, hi, Brittany. What is your coronation prediction? Thank you for the live. Ooh, that's an interesting question. So at this point, I did think they would, for a long time, I did think they would go because they have nothing else. And I think that's still somewhat the case. But I could also see them, that the royal family is telling them, hey, you have been invited publicly, but you are not allowed to attend. You don't get to attend. And it is your court to tell us you're not going. That's how this is going to run. And that's it. So I could definitely see that. And I think that's something that I think can definitely go forward. So, but I'm looking forward to the coronation. And I was actually reading something. There's a whole book on the coronation I want to get, and maybe I'll see if I can get the author on for an interview, and just talking about how the coronation is really an opportunity to see the British monarchy put on a full display. And it's really the only coronation that happens in Europe anymore. There's no more coronations. They all have kind of investitures, and they have their big events and stuff, but they're not in the same way the British are. And so I know we'll see Charles and Camilla and Catherine and William in their very, very best. I don't know what they'll wear. Most likely Camilla will be white. Catherine will probably be white as well. I don't know if we'll see the little Wales as kids in little crowns. I would really love that, especially if they had like Elizabeth's old crown or something, Elizabeth and Margaret's. That would just tickle me to death. I think that would be awesome. And we may see working members of the royal family in tiaras in their finest. I don't know about the other members. So for example, Beatrice and Eugenie, they could perhaps wear tiaras. I mean, I would imagine for Beatrice, it would be either her mother's, which they own the York tiara, or it'd be Queen Mary's fringe. The reason I say Queen Mary's fringe is that's what she wore to her wedding. Although I think that was a tradition as well as the oldest blood royal of her generation, princess, wears that tiara. So the next one should be Charlotte because it was the queen. It was Princess Anne, and then it was Beatrice, and then I think it would be next should be Charlotte. So it'll be interesting to see if Harry and Meghan go. I just don't know if they'll go. And I don't know how much of the other royals we'll see. And I know people have said, oh, don't say it this way. But yeah, the Brits are somewhat stingy when it comes to the rest of Europe. They just don't like going to the other events. I don't know why. They usually just send Sophie and Edward, and everybody else sends like the king and queen and like the crown prince and princess. And the Brits just send Sophie and Edward. It's just like, I don't understand why. It would be great if Catherine and William could spend time with some of their counterparts over in Europe a bit more, like Crown Princess Victoria and Crown Princess Mary and Crown Princess Mette-Marit, and all the ones in between. So you have Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Prince Haakon and all these sorts. I just think it would be great because they are somewhat closer to their ages that Catherine and William could go. I think that'd be great for them. But again, Catherine and William, it's just strange. All right. Mariki. Mariki? Okay. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. So who takes the children if they get a divorce? So there is a stipulation. I don't know the specifics of it. Whereas whoever is the monarch is the technical guardian of some of the children of the initial line of succession. So technically, Charles is somewhat the guardian of the Wales' kids. Now, does he utilize any of that power? No. Did the queen utilize really any of that power? Probably not. So to me, when it comes to a divorce, if that would happen, Meghan and Harry would split the kids and they would live in the States. I don't foresee any reason for Meghan to come back to the UK. I think she hates that country because it did not fawn at her feet. And I don't think Charles would exercise any of the power he potentially has to take the kids back, but that's just my thought. So why does Charles allow them to keep their titles? Because it's difficult to strip them, and there's not really a mechanism to do it. But I think there should be one that exists because in this day and age anymore, you need to have the ability to keep people in line, and the threat of stripping somebody's titles is a way to keep people in line. So if you want to go rogue like Harry and Meghan, there's a consequence for it. And right now there's not really a great consequence for Harry and Meghan. They still believe at some point they will be king and queen of the Commonwealth and that they'll somehow magically be welcomed back. That is literally their line of thinking, which is quite frankly dumb. But I think that's why they keep their titles right now. Michelle, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Polita, thank you so much for the tip as well. So Jessica says, I would rather judge Hollywood people individually rather than lumping them all together. There are good and bad people everywhere. It's very true, but I would say Hollywood generally skews very, very left and very, very woke. And that has been somewhat disastrous for them. They've had their worst box office in like 20 plus years this year. It's been really bad. So Terry says, great question on prenup. Hope one's in place. Don't see Harry and Meghan lasting 10 years. Yeah, I would amend to 10 years. I thought it would be 5 years, but I think amending to 10 is about right. Is about right. So Julia says Harry and Meghan Harry in the book Spare said the king and Charles and Camilla did not like William and Kate drawing loads of attention, and Camilla and Charles drawing attention to themselves. So again, Harry has this delusion that everybody was super, super jealous of Meghan Markle, which they were not. And I think Catherine was perfectly fine and happy to have somebody taking more of the attention away from her. I think she was thrilled to death with it. And at the same time, obviously, Charles has been dealing with this for his entire life, pretty much. There was this one time where he was kind of the hot, cute young guy, but that those years have long passed, and he is well aware that he's not that popular. And he's also well aware that, as anybody should be, that the young people tend to draw more attention. At some point, the whales, in terms of their attention, will be replaced by their own children. As those children get older and older, they become teenagers, and they really start to grow into their looks. They will become the focus on the monarchy and the press. That's just how it works. They chase youth and beauty. And that, again, this is something that's been around for years and years. So this idea that that Charles was super threatened by Harry and Meghan, that Kate and William were super threatened by Harry and Meghan. No, they knew it would come in cycles. And at the end of the day, you got to think too, Harry and Meghan don't really have anything. And what I mean by that is Catherine and William will be the king and queen. They will, when Harry and Meghan were in the royal family, they were going to be the prince and princess of Wales at some point. They knew that. So they weren't threatened really by Harry and Meghan, because at the end of the day, William gets to be king. And what does Harry get to do? He gets to hang around and be the spare. So who really has the power? Well, it's Catherine and William. So I think Harry and Meghan really misconstrued who had the real power in that situation. And it definitely wasn't them. Rose says, who does a dress fitting at the last minute? Yes. And Givenchy comes across looking terrible as well. How could they not fit children's dresses? Children's dresses should be super duper easy because they're kids. They should be super easy, because they don't have hips and they don't have, bosoms yet. So it's like the girls, especially, they should be super easy. That was apparently too hard for Givenchy to do. Just doesn't look well. So Petite asked, did you see the Tom Hanks apology? I did not. But yeah, I heard the skit was something else. But yeah, it was just like Harry, I think, is taking it too far. It's like he's made his family into a joke, and he doesn't realize that he's been made into a joke and his family's been made into a joke, and then nobody respects him. I think he doesn't realize that yet. I love this, Louisa. I would never share my lip gloss. You and me both. I still think that's the most disgusting thing. JJQ3 said, I noticed whenever H&M talk about moves, they always use words like escape, fled, ran. We never just moved to California and Canada. It's so true, because again, they have to overemphasize everything, and they have to make it so dramatic, because again, they're trying to sell this lie to the public, I think, in so many ways. I love this. Rich says, I love that Catherine has a majority of the stunning jewels. Yes. So Catherine got the best of Diana's jewelry, and Meghan got the worst. The sole exception, I would say, is the aquamarine ring. I think that is really, really pretty. And so I think, but Meghan got the dinky stuff, whereas Catherine got the major things. But it doesn't make sense. Catherine is the future Princess of Wales. So it didn't make sense for her to get most of Diana's jewelry. And again, she will inherit a ton of things from the monarchy itself as well. Well, it won't personally belong to her. It'll belong to the crown. And they do that to avoid inheritance taxes and everything. So it is quite complicated. Any truth that in Meghan's ex-husband writing a book? I don't know. I haven't heard that. He's been smart to be quiet. But at the same time, it would just be super interesting to hear from him. Because again, I feel like we get so many sides of Meghan that I feel like this idea that she's this perfect angel is just doesn't even make any sense. Ashley says, I noticed Meghan hasn't been seen lately. No, she hasn't. I think realizing that's probably not the best idea, because her husband kind of made her look dumb as he is. So yeah. Jessica, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. And Jillian as well. Thank you so much. She wanted a Weight Watchers gig. Guess who owns Weight Watchers? That would be funny. Oprah Winfrey owns Weight Watchers now, which I think has been losing a lot of money since she bought it, ironically. All right. Asma says, why can't the European royals come to the UK? I think they would. So this is in regards to Coronation. I think they would, but the Brits are also just different about things. So because I was trying to think, I know Charles went to I won't call it a coronation. It's more of like an investor of King Wilhelm Alexander. There's a close relationship between the UK and the Netherlands, but I don't think Charles definitely didn't go to King Philippe or King Philip. So King Philippe of Spain, King Philip of Belgium. They're investors. Those were a little bit different. So I think foreign royals will attend, but I'm really honestly not sure. I'm really hoping, especially because if they get to wear tiaras too, it'd be tiara bonanza, and I'm all for that. But yeah, the Brits just run things differently. So for example, like in Sweden and everything, their weddings are tiara events, which is awesome. So everybody at Crown Princess Victoria's wedding, all of them had tiaras on. It was fabulous. It was fabulous tiara watching, but the Brits just don't do that. And not all the other ones do. I think Luxembourg, they did not have the wedding ceremony itself. Nobody wore tiaras, but they did have like a reception the night before where a lot of people wore tiaras. So yeah, the Brits just don't have events where they wear them quite as much. I don't know if that was the Queen's decision or what, but I wish they would do it more. Anna asks, can Harry's princely title be stripped? I'm not sure if it can be. He was born with that. I'm not necessarily against him still having that. I just think having a Duke of Sussex title is a little much, and using it so often is just a little strange. So we'll see what happens there. Mr. Kagan, if I'm in London after the coronation, I can walk you through what my unit did to add extra security for William and Kate's wedding. And the Obama state vid says, that would be interesting. That would be interesting just to see, because I know there's a lot of extra security that goes into these, and they are kind of complicated, and so it would be really fascinating to see how it works. All right, JP, super sticker, thank you so much, and AJ as well, thank you so much for the super sticker. Those things must be yellow now. Y'all think they make more vegan ones? I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but that would be. But yeah, Harry and Meghan is all about the vegan now. So Leslie, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Charlotte, thank you so much. What if there is trouble and H has to cover up anything he has told her if she came out with a blackmail diaries? There is just things that don't add up and sound deliberately added in. Good spin if so. Yes. So again, Meghan has been keeping notes for a long time, and I think she could release a ton of stuff that makes Harry look bad and the monarchy look bad. But again, if Meghan's one of her biggest complaints is that Catherine did not lend her lip gloss, I don't think anybody would really be all that interested in that. Because it's like, again, it's like, I'm on team like hygiene. It's not just team Kate or Meghan. I'm just team hygiene. I would not lend my lip gloss to somebody. I even have a hard time sharing my drinks with my own family members, have alone a lip gloss, unless it was like utterly desperate and it was like my best friend or my mom or my sister. Probably no. And if I had done that, it would have been when I was like 12. And I also think too, now this is just me think growing up, there's a certain age where lice is more of a possibility, especially among kids, because you're going to birthday parties and you're doing sleepovers and everything. And so there was a point in my childhood where it was like, you did not share your hairbrush. And so it's like, if you didn't share your hairbrush, which is really an innocuous thing, it just brushes through your hair or whatever. And that was something that I didn't do in part because of the lice concerns, because I did end up getting lice once as a kid. Like, why in the world would I share lip gloss? Because that's even like more personal hygiene thing. It's just so gross. It's so gross. Woo, candle on maker on standby. Yes. I mean, if you watch the coverage of the Queen's funeral, it was very, very apparent. Not only was the candle in Meghan's way, but as soon as Meghan and Sophie left the palace, they had done a shot watching Camilla and Catherine's car going to the palace for the funeral. But as soon as, or I think this was the lying in state, but as soon as Sophie and Meghan were about to come into the shot, they panned to wide. immediately. So they did everything they could to not show Meghan Markle during basically anything surrounding the Queen's death. They did the best they could. They did the best they could. Teresa says Harry wants to shut down the free press. Isn't that communism? Yes, it is. It is. Harry is advocating for communism, and he has no flipping clue. I love there was this bit, apparently in one interview, where Harry says that William told him he didn't even know what misogyny meant, which I think is so true. I think all the family was like, you really don't know what you're talking about, do you, Harry? So it was just something, again, where it's just absolutely crazy. So when Aspen says M gave wrong sizes, so this is in regards to the bridesmaids dresses, and Asma says Givenchy looks so unprofessional. I mean, they really do. It's staggeringly bad that Givenchy could not fit dresses for children. Like, it makes them look terrible. No wonder Claire Wright Keller was like fired almost immediately after Meghan left the royal family. She was fired. I mean, she left. It was one of those things where we're going separate directions. But she left in early 2020, not too long after Harry and Meghan left. I think in part because they were like, okay, so we kept you around partially because, well, it was kind of nice to have you there because you were part of the royal family. You had this connection with the royals, and we wanted to keep that. But yeah, now that's done. We don't need that anymore, or we don't really have that anymore, and everything. And you just made us look bad because, I mean, even her wedding dress was fit terribly. So Diane, Claire says, don't you think Harry would kick himself for giving William his mother's engagement ring? So actually it did come out that William did always have the ring. It was only Paul Burrell who said that it was Harry who wanted the ring and William got the watch. So apparently it was actually the reverse. William always had the ring. And so that was something that Harry confirmed, which I think is great. And so, yeah. Meta at... 8, Montecito was evacuated proud. This is why we haven't seen Meghan. Yeah, I think that definitely could be the case. Although I wouldn't be surprised if after everything calms down, if she comes down, they are there trying to do some good work within the community again, because they're desperate to try to mimic what the royals are doing without actually being real royals. So that's just, they're desperate to recapture that magic. Are you kidding? Don't you think the European royals would miss a grand coronation? I don't think they would. I mean, the question is just invites and everything. And I don't know, again, how this will all work. So it's just, again, something that the Brits are just different when it comes to some of this stuff. And it's been so long, I can't even remember if foreign royals went to the actual coronation of Queen Elizabeth. I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing any pictures of them because they have enough lords and ladies and stuff to fill the place already. I don't know if adding foreign royals would be a big thing. Elena says it's not being sold at full price anywhere. Apparently, Barnes & Noble is 30% off. So I do agree. I did see the 30% off, but they usually do most of their new releases 30% off, especially if you're a member. So don't find that super unusual. Oh, cheers, Brittany has some hot chocolate on me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Harry Craig says, how come no one is talking about how the actual residents of Sussex feel about the titles? Yes, they should ask the actual residents. I mean, if Meghan could tell me 5 things about Sussex, I'd be shocked. I think she knows 0 about the place that she gets her title from. Like 0. She could care less about it. And so eventually I think that at some point Harry and Meghan will... I think they will lose the titles at some point. I think the monarchy will have to, especially the representative of Sussex is really invested in, I think, getting rid of the titles. And I think so as well. I mean, obviously there's a cost of living crisis. And I think, healthcare worker crisis and those sorts of things in the UK right now. So they have bigger fish to fry, and I understand. But I think at some point, especially if there's a lull in sessions or something, they'll go, yeah, we want to do this now. We want to do this now. Lizzie B, thank you so much for the tip. Previously, I asked if you needed, on-site travel assistant. I don't know if you want to cover that event in Sweden, but I can totally help you out. Resume already sent. Yes, I did see it, and I need to look through it. Sorry, guys. I know sometimes you guys send me emails, and sometimes I'm really fast, and then sometimes I'm not. It is sometimes challenging for me to get everything done. So yes, I have seen it. I'll look back through. So I will, but I'm just going to go back up to the top here real quick. Thank you so much. Yes. So I'll definitely take a look. But I thought I'd go back up here to the top because I miss sometimes the questions early in the session. So Renee asked, will Penguin continue with these 2? Yes. They definitely will. They definitely will. Vernica asked, Brittany, did you read the book yet? I haven't read the book yet. So I wanted to kind of be focused on it when I started reading it. So I haven't been able to start reading it yet, but I'm going to plan on doing that this weekend. Joan asked, any progress in Parliament changing the rules about removing titles? Last I heard, Charles and the PM were not in great support of that. So we'll see if that changes. I hope it does. All right, guys, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for today. Thank you so much for all your questions. And hold on just one little second. Miss Pippa once again says, thank you so much for the well wishes. She's like, I just got woken up from my nap on the couch. And so she is a happy girl, and hopefully no cast upcoming. So next week, because we are all done with the cast. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. And again, I'll be working on getting that video probably up tomorrow. I was like thinking, oh, I'll get it up tonight. No, that video ended up being like super long. So, but I think it'll be really good. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Bye.